Hello, happy Monday. It is time once again for Stories Come Alive. Gary Young, the world leader in essential oils. I am so enjoy sharing this with you. So even if you cannot make it live, you can always watch these recordings to know the true story about D. Gary Young and Young Living Essential Oils. Hey Melody, you're my first one on. So today we're going to talk about Simiane-La-Rotone farm, which is our farm in France. And here is the picture right down there. Members come from all over the world to be part of the seed to sale process. Yes, I got to go, I think it was 2012, that I was in France with Young Living. And it was such a beautiful place to be up in the mountains, and a fun story while we were there and when we were in France. So we flew into Nice, and we stayed, which is beautiful beach, beautiful town in France. And we're there, and Young Living always hires these travel crews. We are on buses. There were 4 buses. There was only about 100 of us on this trip. Hey, Glinda, nice to see you. There was only about 100 of us on this group. And it's funny when they hire these travel crews, because the travel agencies are used to sightseeing and taking us all around the area. They want to explore France, and you know how those travel crews go. They also get money from the different businesses to venture into them and things like that. So it's always funny to see Gary Young react to this. So he comes out and they tell us what we're doing that day, and he has this little consult circle that goes on outside the buses. And I said, oh, we're not going to do what they said we were going to do. You just wait and watch what happens. And then he comes back in and he says, would you guys rather sightsee around Nice in France, or would you rather me be your guide and take you up the mountains and show you the trail of the distilleries along the way and my path to finding the farm that is now ours, Young Living's today? And we're like, we want to go with you. So everything went 360 switch. No more sightseeing with what the travel company wanted us to do. And we were on with Gary, going up into the mountains, the curvy roads, up into the mountains, stopping along the way, seeing all these ancient distilleries along the roadsides. It was such a magnificent trip. I have tons of pictures. Someday I will gather them all together and do my own little dialogue with each picture along the way. So I'm going to read to you about this. In 1996, Jean Noel found a third farm in the Simiane Valley, about an hour north of Marseille. It already had lavender growing on it that had not been treated with chemicals. Very important. Hey, Elsa, you're joining us. Hey, Joanna. Okay, with no chemicals. So plans were made, paper signed, and the first foreign-owned lavender farm was bought by Young Living in Simiane-La-Rotone, France. I hope I say that correctly. I do not speak French. The farm has 55 hectares, which is 136 acres, and sits in the Simiane Valley, looking up at the amazing 12th century castle called Chateau d'Agoult. I don't know if I said that right, which brings thousands of tourists every year to see its magnificence in the heart of the lavender capital of the world. So if you guys go to my YouTube channel and you look at my cover right there, that is the farm we're talking about. That is from that castle looking down onto all the fields. Oh, it chokes me up a little bit. It's such a beautiful sight to see the differences. You'll see the clary sage, you'll see the lavender, and you'll see all the different greens that are going on with all the different farms. Sadly, the new farm had not been well maintained and needed a lot of care. So Gary put out the word, and Young Living members came from around the world throughout the year to help with planting, harvesting, and distilling. Today, hundreds of members travel great distances to be a part of the seed to seal process. And you know, it's a little secret out there that we may have a yoga retreat on this farm in France. How awesome would that be? At first, the farmers were skeptical about this American who had moved into their valley. Foreigners were not very welcome, but Gary began getting acquainted, and as they saw his dedication working on the farm and the care that he gave to the plants, they became curious, wanting to know about Gary and his company. As time went on, they wanted to know what Gary thought about farming and why he was adamant about not using chemicals. Feeding and nourishing the soil will produce better quality oils was always Gary's motto. Gary made the statement that one day he would bring seed back to France from the lavender plants growing on the St. Mary's, Idaho farm that had grown from the original seed he had carried from France and planted in 1989 in Spokane, Washington, and in 1992 to 94 in St. Mary's, Idaho. Everyone laughed at such a ridiculous idea. What would an Idaho alfalfa farmer offer a French lavender farmer? Can you see them saying that? Only time would tell. So here is a picture of the farm getting, let me switch here. Gary was saddened by the dying lavender field in Provence in 1992. So there it was when we took it over. Full of weeds, not a lot going on there. It is beautiful. Wait till you see more pictures. The farms continue to expand and produce more oil. More and more Young Living members came to be a part of the seed to seal process. All the farms were producing well except the farm in France. Gary was troubled on the horizon in the heart of Provence, and now that trouble was staring the French lavender farmers in the face. From Gary Young, the words were alarming. 20 years ago, I saw things changing in the lavender fields in France with the true species Lavendula agustafolia. I watched it closely, and it wasn't long afterwards when the lavender started dying off. When I went back to France in 1985, 87, 88, 89, and 91, when I started working with Jean Noel, I kept taking seed back home and planting it. 1992 to 94, I began expanding my fields at the St. Mary's farm and had enough lavender seed to plant 45 acres. Every time I went to France, I watched the farmers try to find out why the lavender was dying. Part of it was an unknown virus that came through the region. Some of the fields developed a fungus, which I believe had something to do with the weakened immunity of the plant after years of growing with fertilizers and being sprayed with pesticides. The lavender just wasn't resistant to some of the bugs and funguses any longer. Then a severe drought crippled the lavender for about 7 years, followed by a 1-year reprieve, and then another drought that was even longer took its final toll. I had a feeling, this is Gary speaking, I had a feeling the one day St. Mary's Lavender would reestablish the lavender in France and create a rebirthing of true lavender. As we talked about it, there was some laughs, but 5 years ago, in 2010, I brought seed from the St. Mary's farm back to France. First, he grew starts, and then 2 years later, we replanted them to the field. I was there in 2012 for that. Yay! First, we grew, I read that. What was amazing is that this lavender, originally from France and was then returned to France after 20 years in the U.S., was the only lavender on our farm in Provence that went into full bloom. Our St. Mary's lavender was growing in the same field with original French lavender that hadn't died, and there was no comparison. The multiple stems, heavy with lush flowers of beautiful multitude colors from white to deep purple, seemed to dance in the sunlight as they reached farther and farther toward the blue sky. There is not a more beautiful true lavender than what is growing on our farms now. Binot stated, the St. Mary's lavender looks like the true French lavender we grew 50 years ago and is the only lavender that produced 2 crops this year. The other part that thrills me is that this lavender will produce seed that Jean Noel and Jean-Marie Blanc, production manager, will gather for propagating new starts for the next year. Starts with strong immunity with all that will produce the rich lavender oil that French farmers remember from years ago. I feel honored and humbled that I give back to France for all that France has given to me for all these years. So here is a picture, let me see, of the lavender. Notice the green in between. That's because it's organic. There are no chemicals on those crops, so you're going to see weeds between. The contrast between the lavender grown from St. Mary's seed left that was germinated in a greenhouse in Simone, and the French lavender right is most remarkable. Healthy seed and nutrient balanced soil produces healthy plants, and unhealthy seed and soil produces just the opposite. So, do you see the opposite between? Very cool. The bottom picture, Gary operating the first Young Living harvester used in the Young Living farm in France. Very awesome. So, this is when I was there, right up there. Members watched the immense amount of distilled lavender lifted out of the 20,000 liter chamber after distillation. So I'm in that group somewhere. In 2011, D. Gary Young, with the help of John Noel Landon, his partner of 20 years, Benoît Cassin, the president of the French Lavender Growers Association, and Jean-Marie Blanc, the farm manager who oversees the farm production of planting, cultivating, harvesting, and distilling, merged their farms together as one Young Living farm to bridge 2 continents in 3 decades in the beginning of a bold undertaking, bringing a thriving, healthy Lavendula agustafolia, true lavender, from St. Mary's, Idaho, back to its origin at the Young Living Lavender Farm in Simone Valley of southern France, which today is the largest true lavender farm in the world. We have the largest true lavender farm in the world. And hi, Candy. When I say true lavender, we're talking about Lavendula agustifolia. So when I say to you, all of our new oilers out there that want to go buy all these aromatherapy books on Amazon and in the stores, and they get really excited about aromatherapy, I want to caution you to make sure that you're buying books that go together with Young Living. Because if you're talking about lavender in other ways, it may not be true lavender. Lavender is one of the most highly adulterated oils in the world as well. And that's why we at Young Living prize our farms and our ability to get the truth, to get the pure product, the Lavendula agustifolia. So powerful. The words of John Noel Landon tell the story so concisely. He quotes, "What is really amazing is that this is the only time I've seen true lavender with such a life force in it. Nobody can believe it. The true lavender that has grown from the seed that Gary has brought with him from St. Mary's hasn't grown here for over 15 years. It disappeared. But the way it looks now, there is a new future for the lavender farmers in France." So here are the guys. Let me move this forward so I can read it easier. Here they are. Jean-Marie, Benoît, John Noel, and Gary merged their farms together to create the largest true lavender farm in the world in 2011. And I got to witness that. I think it was either 2011 or 12. I might have been there in 2011. My dates get a little bit confused. In 2015, for the first time in history of Provence, our lavender field was irrigated. Check it out. So is this true farming? This is the truth. People want to know the truth. This is the truth. Pictures to show. In August 2015, the equipment with the latest technology for harvesting arrived at the farm. When the lavender is cut, it lays for 24 hours in the field. It is then loaded into the new stainless steel vat or distilling chamber and is hauled with a truck to the distillery, where the lid is lowered and sealed. The steam hose is then connected at the bottom and the distillation begins. Let me go to the bottom picture. See that? All the plant material. And then here are the two big. The lid is lowered and the steam pipe is hooked to the bottom of the chamber to begin distillation. Then down here, Nicholas and Benoît watch the oil come up the new separator. Such an exciting sight when you're there. It's like, oh, here comes, here comes. All right. Next page, more pictures. Gary arrived in Riverton, Utah on Thanksgiving Day, 1993. He and a couple of friends drove everything he owned in one pickup truck, one small U-Haul truck, and a trailer that carried all the inventory he owned and a small amount of office equipment. It was a very meager beginning for the new company, Young Living Essential Oils. The dilapidated old building was first leased and later purchased. There was very little working capital and no capital investment from outsiders. Gary eagerly faced the new challenge, solving problems, making it work, and then making it work better. And then Gary built the lab and mixed the blends. Rex and LaRue poured the oils by hand, and sticky labels were wrapped around the bottles. That's the beginning of Young Living essential oils. Now, who else has this story? I just ask you that. So that was all the beginning of moving to Utah. And I'm going to go through that. So you saw the France farm. And I just want to tell you how exciting. I want to see how much is in this next chapter, because we may just make this one really short, because then it moves to Utah and it gets really long there. So we're going to keep it short today. All about, so that last part about Young Living beginning in Utah is a blip of what we're going to go through next time. But what I want to say to you about Provence, France, is that's the proof. So when you look at pictures, and I say this story all the time because it came to me firsthand. When you look at pictures in Provence, France, and you see lavender fields, most of the time when they're those beautiful big purple fields, in fact, hold on a minute. I want to show you something. Let's see if I can find a picture. This is a picture I want to show you closer. So when you see those big, round, beautiful, vibrant purple that is all one color, my friends, that's Lavender. That is a hybrid of Lavender. Lavendula agustafolia is the lavender that we're talking about. So when you see fields variegated, do you see this? Do you see how the fields are variegated in color? Do you see that it's purple and lavender and the shades are all different? There might be a little white in there. This is me in 2005 in our fields in Mona, Utah. And this was just, this is my first time visiting one of our farms, and it was overwhelming gorgeous how beautiful it was. My mom was like, she just wants to sit in it. I'm like, yes, I do. I just want to stand in it. I want to sit in it. I want to lay in it. The bees are going everywhere, but they're not worried about me. They were into the blossoms of the flowers. And it's just gorgeous to know, and the aroma being in the fields is amazing. And I have to tell a story. So you see me in the field and I'm in open air. Okay. So when we're talking about lavender, we're talking about this. We're not talking about those vibrant purple flowers. Everybody wants to mistake it. That's a hybrid. This is what a true lavender field looks like. Okay. Lavendula agustafolia. But listen to this. It's a funny story. So my mom goes to the first Young Living convention with me because I was kind of like, what am I getting involved in, Mom? I don't really know what this is. My mom grew up as a farmer. I'm like, will you come to the farm with me and check it out? She's like, absolutely. And so she came and we spent a lot of time out in the fields. We took beautiful pictures. My mom painted a lavender picture for my wall, which I'll show you at some point. And we go in the distiller, and Gary, at that time, convention was pretty small still, and Gary was doing the education outside the distillery. And then we go down the steps to where the oil is coming. So the distillers are out front. They're huge. I even got in the vessel and stomped the lavender like people stomp grapes. It was really fun. Took my shoes off and stomped the lavender. And then they put the lid on, and then there's the big, long duck neck pipe that goes down, and you go down the stairs, and that's where the distillation, the steam is rising in the distillery, and it's coming down the tube, and it's separating the oil and the steam, right? And so then you see the oil coming out the top. You can see pictures of this. The scent was so strong in the distillery when I went down there. I was like overwhelmed. And I said to my mom, what is that smell? And she starts laughing at me. She's like, you just stomped on it up there. It's lavender. She goes, that's the lavender smell. And I'm like, and I start gagging. No lie. I started gagging. She's like, you better go out and get some fresh air. We walked out, got fresh air. And she looked at me, and we're standing out in the rocks, and she said, Pam, if you're going to do this and you're going to turn people onto this, you better let lavender heal you right here, right now. I started laughing. I go, well, Mom, what do I do? And she said, you go back inside there and you breathe it in. And you come back into the fresh air, and then you go back in there. My mom knew nothing about aromatherapy, but my mom is brilliant. She's brilliant at farming. And she said, this is what you're going to do. And so that's what we did. And we went out. So remember when I say to you that if you don't like the smell of the essential oils, you need them. What does lavender do? We have a vitality lavender, right? So I can say it's supportive to the nervous system. So if you're in fight or flight and you take in gobs of lavender and your body's going, no, I want to be in fight or flight, that lavender's going, but I want you to be calm and I want you to be relaxed. And so my body was doing this push, pull, and my mind was going, I don't want this. And I was gagging. But 3 times I went out and I came back in. And I went out and I came back in. And by the 3rd time, I was literally putting my feet under the floral water that was coming out of the distiller. And I was basically bathing in the lavender floral water because no longer did the scent affect me. I could take it in, I could breathe it in, and it was beautiful. So I share that story with you because sometimes you're going to feel an oil that you just go, whoa, what is that doing? And it's up to you. You make the choice. Can you go through it and do it gradually? Less is more. Take it gradual, but go through it if you choose to. And I'm grateful I went through it because I realized so big the benefit. And I still take out my queen of oils, my lavender, and it's not my favorite. I don't go, wow, I gotta have some lavender. I go, okay, lavender, you and I need to be buddies. I'm going to put some of you on. And so I am going to take that and drop it into my hand. I'm going to rub my hands together. I'm going to place you on my heart and on my neck. And I am willing and I am able and I allow you to come into all my cells to help me be calm, cool, and collected. I love you, Lavendula agustafolia. I mean, what a name is that? Lavendula agustafolia. So thanks for letting me share my stories. I do get choked up because it is such a beautiful thing to see lavender in Mona, Utah, to see lavender in St. Mary's, Idaho, to see lavender in France, in our Simiane-La-Rotone, as I think how you say it, in Provence, France. And to see our company full of this love for our plants and be there side by side, Gary Young. It's just powerful. So I want to say, if you are using an off-brand lavender, please let me inspire you to only use Young Living's Lavendula agustafolia. Lavendula agustafolia. There's love in every one of those bottles. Brenda, I want to see what you said. Almost nauseous in the past 3 to 4 days, and I have always loved it. Young Living only. Very good. Awesome. Thank you for loving my stories. I have lots, so we got to pull them out of me. One reason I read from this book is I knew it would pull stories out because I've had such an amazing experience with Young Living. I got involved at a time where I could spend a lot of time with Gary and Mary Young and the boys and all the leaders. And now I'm a leader myself. I've always been a leader, but now I'm a diamond leader with Young Living, and I'm so proud. I'm grateful. These oils are life-changing. So spread the word, my friends. Share them, share them, share them. Have a great day.